So hello and good evening to all. Hello Kelvin, Asi and Pradesh. Is my voice audible to all? Okay. I don't think there is any other class going on before this one. So shall we start or just I must wait for others to join. Is there any other class going on? Yes, very good evening to Kelvin. It's already finished. Okay. Okay, so as the people who are present in yesterday's class, they are knowing that we are discussing on spirituality and management and implication of spiritual concepts in management. So in continuation to that, we'll be discussing again today the implementation of spiritual concepts in management. So I have certain videos for you pertaining to that. So I'll play video one by one and then we shall discuss after the video. So just everybody concentrate on the video.
This is the presentation I offered as my final project in Psychology 40, Stress Management, taught by Tina Troyer at Columbia College in Sonora, California. If you're watching this and you live in the United States, chances are near to 100% that you consider yourself either religious or spiritual or both. As you can see from the map graph, most people in the U.S. are categorized as either Christian of some sort, Protestant in particular, Roman Catholic, or Mormon in the light blue in the middle of Utah. It is estimated that 90% of the planet's population has some belief in a metaphysical being or beings that has some interest in the affairs of the universe and of this planet specifically. In the U.S., there is a growing philosophical divide between religion and spirituality, with more and more people describing themselves as spiritual but not religious during this time that some theologians are referring to as a post-Christian age. So, what is religion? Well, religion refers to an integrated set of beliefs or activities that are usually, but not always, theistic and ritualistic. Theistic, by the way, comes from the Greek root word theo and means about God. Spirituality, then, can be described as the meaning gained from life experiences which may or may not be theistic in nature. Furthermore, spirituality is also a quality of the person derived from a social and cultural environment that involves faith, a search for meaning, a sense of connection with others, and a transcendence of self, resulting in a sense of inner peace and well-being. Both religion and spirituality seek answers to existential questions. Existentialism has to do with the biggie questions. Why are we here? What is the purpose of my existence? How is my existence of any value? But what does this have to do with stress management? Well, I think if we asked any religious or spiritual leader, they would most likely claim that regular religious and spiritual practices will help you manage the crises and stressors in your life. What, then, would be some of the elements and practices of religion and spirituality that are supposed to help us deal with stress? Heightened optimism, also known as hope. A sense of belonging. A sense of community identity, social support, the opportunity to practice letting go, which is also known as faith or trust, connection with an entity or concept that is greater than ourselves, the assurance and comfort of unconditional love, a sense of advocacy, that someone is on our side. Inspiration. The word inspiration has its roots in the Latin word spiritus, which means spirit or breath of God. I find it interesting to contemplate that the word inspiration means the very act of living, that is, inspiring as opposed to expiring, or even literally inhaling the divine breath or spirit. Another element of religion and spirituality that is commonly preached as a stress reliever is purpose and meaning for our life's activities and for our very existence. Another is guidance and authoritative direction. Some people feel lost without some sort of authoritative guidance. Authority is very important, as we wouldn't want to take guidance or direction from the wrong source. It has to be one we feel we can trust. Finally, religion and spirituality often offer some sort of existential reassurance that death is not the end. Those are some of the main elements of religion and spirituality that are cited as being able to help relieve stress. What then are the practices of religion and spirituality that are supposed to help relieve stress? Well, worship, which facilitates connection with a larger community. Acquisition of a larger perspective. Education and participation in one's cultural inheritance. The sense of a tangible connection with a higher power. A major element of worship is usually music, such as Gregorian chant, one of the most ancient forms of worship music. Powerful and majestic vibratory sound. These are the pipes of the organ at First Congregational Church of Los Angeles. This may be the largest church pipe organ in the world, and when the organist plays the very lowest notes, they can barely be heard. They are simply felt as an enormous vibration. It is an extremely powerful and unnerving sensation. Then there's joyous and ecstatic mood-altering music. In modern Christian churches, this would be referred to as a praise band. Then there's ritual accompaniment. A great deal of classical Western music was composed as ritual music for worship. Other major religious and spiritual practices are things like prayer and meditation, which can facilitate states of mindfulness, a heightened perception of reality, and an awareness of our own presence in the world, as well as an attitude of gratitude. Prayer and meditation often deepen one's sense of happiness and well-being. Now, at this point, with a group or class, I might administer a survey that would help individual members discover their level of spiritual and religious health. In 1983, Craig Ellison developed the Spiritual Well-Being Scale, which he introduced as a means to provide researchers with a method for the empirical study of aspects of the self, such as religious and existential well-being. Religious well-being has to do with one's perceived sense of how well and often she or he participates in religious activities such as prayer, church attendance, and living out one's faith-based beliefs. Existential well-being has more to do with one's comfort and sense of rightness about just being here. As it turns out, they are not at all correlated. You can score very high on religious well-being, but only moderate or even low regarding existential well-being. Conversely, some people score extremely high existentially, but very low religiously. The questions in the survey help you gauge whether your religious and existential well-being is low, moderate, or high, but most people know without having to take the test where they fall with regard to religious and existential well-being. Take a minute here to informally gauge your own sense of religious well-being, as well as your sense that you belong here in the world. Now that you've considered where you would place yourself on a scale as far as your relationship with a higher power or in your existential well-being, would you like to know what I found out this means in terms of your ability to manage stress? Absolutely nothing Zip. Zero. Nada. The big donut hole. Eh. Thank you for playing. What's the point? I have to tell you, I was pretty amazed when I started reading the results of the scientific studies of religion and spirituality and the relationship to stress and well-being that have been done in the last couple of decades. These researchers have used specially developed scales and questionnaires and have queried a few hundred people. It's true that the populations of the studies were pretty homogeneous and all volunteer, so there is little diversity and no real generalizations can be made. Most of the participants were white, middle class, Judeo-Christian, and culturalized folks who were between the ages of 18 and 70. Two of the groups were college age. If you're a person who fits that general description, with a minor exception or two, I would suggest that the results of the findings I read about might look similar if you had participated in the studies. What I was most amazed to discover is that religion and spirituality not only have little measurable effect when it comes to lowering people's stress levels, but that they often actually contribute to the stressful circumstances in our lives by causing the very same cognitive dissonance they purport to be relieving. What is cognitive dissonance? Well, back in 1957, the term was coined and then the concept was further developed by a social psychologist named Leon Fessinger. He said that cognitive dissonance is the psychological conflict resulting from incongruous beliefs and attitudes held simultaneously. Fessinger did an experiment with his students. He had them perform some boring, meaningless task for 1 hour. Before they began, he told each of them that they would be paid for their time. To some he promised $1. To others he promised $20. Guess who reported the most positive feelings about the task they had completed? Those who were paid just $1. Can you think why this might be? Well, the students who were only paid $1 had to adjust their thoughts and opinions about what they'd been doing in order to justify to themselves having just spent so much time doing something so pointless for so little money. They had to make themselves feel better about what they'd been doing, so they talked themselves into some justification for the meaningless work they'd been way underpaid for. They encountered greater cognitive dissonance than the students who were paid $20. And in order to relieve the contradiction, they had to adjust their own thoughts. Entire sections of it are never mentioned from any pulpit. The Bible itself is a major source of cognitive dissonance, yet it is considered one of the highest sources of divine authority in many faith traditions. Stay with me. I am not giving up yet. I'm determined to redeem religion and spirituality as a valid coping strategy for suffering and stress. So, affect is a term that psychologists developed to refer to the experience of emotions or feelings. Why they can't just call them emotions or feelings, I don't understand. But affect is a key part of the process of our interactions with one another. An affect is an emotion or subjectively experienced feeling, and there are supposedly 9 affects. The first is considered neutral, and it is the affect of surprise or startlement. Next are the positive affects of enjoyment, joy, and interest, excitement. Finally, making up the majority of the pyramid are the negative affects: anger, rage, disgust, dis-smell, which is that experience of ew, distress, anguish, fear, terror, and finally, shame, humiliation. One wonders under which category eustress or positive stress falls, but wow, the scale looks a bit uneven. Do you get the impression that we encounter a bit overmuch suffering in life? Nudging a little further into the discussion about affect, affect consciousness refers to the mutual relationship between activation of basic affective experiences and an individual's capacity to consciously perceive, tolerate, reflect upon, and express these experiences. Now this looks a little more promising. It turns out that even though in some cases religion and spirituality can cause cognitive dissonance due to various life experiences, such as loss of a loved one, catastrophic illness, financial hardships, etc., it can also in many cases contribute to positive affect by offering us all of those wonderful elements such as a sense of hope, a sense of belonging, social support, the impression that someone or something greater than ourselves is advocating for us, and so on. So while religion and spirituality do not help us manage stress directly in such a way as to lower it, they do have some effect as a buffer for stress. This is because religion and spirituality can have a significant effect on our affect consciousness, that is, our capacity to consciously perceive, tolerate, reflect upon, and express our experiences in a more optimistic way. In one study, for instance, the severity of the symptoms that women reported suffering due to premenstrual syndrome were worse for women who also reported deeper religious affiliation. Any guesses as to why this might be? How many are familiar with the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden in the book of Genesis of the Bible? Eve, as the archetypal woman in the story, is cursed with menstruation for having accepted the temptation to eat a bad apple, and thus bringing about the fall of all humankind from God's grace. For women of faith who embrace this story as owning some level of legitimacy and existential truth, it has an extremely powerful, if even unconscious, influence on their very identities as women. Thus, in this case, these women view their monthly suffering as the divine punishment and corrective action that is, after all, only what they deserve. In fact, the greater their suffering, the more likely they are being redeemed by their pain and torment from their fallen and sinful state. So they embrace their symptoms and may even unconsciously magnify them in order to resolve the cognitive dissonance caused by their belief. Yet these same women report their lives as being filled with joy and contentment. They feel confident and secure in their daily lives because of their belief in the same God who relegates all women to suffer together in solidarity for the guilt of having introduced sin into the perfection of creation. They feel loved and highly regarded by God. They consider their salvation all the sweeter due to the fact that they can do nothing to earn it, but that it is given them in generous grace. In yet another study of older patients who suffered with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, the participants in the study who reported a higher level of religion and spirituality often rated their symptoms as less severe and as having lower impact on their quality of life, no matter how severe and debilitating the objective measurements of their symptoms really were. So, women with bad PMS symptoms used their religious spiritual beliefs to create a positive affect consciousness that brightened the rest of their lives and even caused them to almost enjoy their pain and suffering, while COPD patients created positive affect consciousness based on their beliefs in a loving and gracious God or universe in such a manner that the severity of their symptoms was less and the quality of their lives and relationships with others increased. In both cases, religious and spiritual beliefs and practices actually caused greater positive affect consciousness or optimism. Based upon their understanding of their relationships with the divine or the universe, these people actually made themselves feel better about life and the suffering they experienced. This does not mean that these people's religious and spiritual affiliations lowered their stress levels. They simply devised more positive ways to think and feel despite high stress based upon their religious and spiritual beliefs and practices. The bottom line of these studies showed that spirituality does have an ability to buffer stress, but it is limited. It turns out that religious well-being, that is, how often you participate in prayer, worship, and scripture study, has no effect on stress at all. So while your beliefs can help you feel better about life, more positive, give you a sense of purpose, the effects are fairly limited in comparison to our physical circumstantial experiences, and spirituality is not at all any sort of cure for the suffering of life. There was, however, one brilliant ray of divine light in a study done at Loyola in Maryland. 3 researchers conducted a study that differentiated spiritual life integration, or SLI, from social justice commitment, or SJC. Spiritual life integration measures how often you pray, go to church, study scripture, etc. In comparison to the other studies measuring religious well-being, spiritual life integration did not predict any aspect of affective well-being. In other words, participating in the elements and practices of religion and spirituality didn't even make the participants feel better about their lives. Here's the kicker, though. In this study, social justice commitment is the proactive expression of one's religious and spiritual beliefs, and social justice commitment significantly predicted positive affect. A sense of satisfaction or positive feelings were usually produced by performing acts of kindness, which then caused people to want to further engage in benevolent acts. Conversely, those who did not engage in acts of kindness did not receive the sense of internal happiness and well-being that is engendered by helping others, and so their negative social justice commitment was significantly related to negative affect and depressive symptoms. In other words, being helpful towards one's fellow human beings or toward animals or nature, that is, being of some sort of service in the world, acting as a personal corrective to injustice, poverty, hunger, war, and suffering of all kinds, seems to be the one truly measurable way that religion and spirituality positively influence our well-being. Henry Nouwen said, "Compassion is hard because it requires the inner disposition to go with others to places where they are weak, lonely, vulnerable, and broken. But this is not our spontaneous response to suffering. What we desire most is to do away with suffering by fleeing from it or by finding a quick cure for it." In the Christian scriptures of the Judeo-Christian Bible, Jesus is quoted as saying, "Do to others as you would have them do to you. Sell all you have and give the money to the poor. If a man strikes your right cheek, turn to him also your left. Forgive 70 times 7. Love your neighbor as yourself. And finally, whatever you do to the least of these, you do for me. Muhammad said, "Do not say that if the people do good to us, we will do good to them, and if the people oppress us, we will oppress them. But determine that if people do not do you good, you will do good to them, and if they oppress you, you will not oppress them. Especially if you are well-to-do, see that no one goes hungry or naked." Do you love your Creator? Then love your fellow beings first. The creation is as God's family, for its sustenance is from Him. Therefore, the most beloved unto God is the person who doeth good to God's family. Buddha said, "Insight into change teaches us hope. Because change is built into the nature of things, nothing is inherently fixed, not even our own identity. No matter how bad the situation, anything is possible. We can do whatever we want to do, create whatever world we want to live in, and become whatever we want to be." One of Buddha's students then wrote, "In the 5 reflections, the reflection on karma is the one that gives hope. You realize that you're in charge of your actions. You're not simply a victim of fate or of the stars or of some being acting through you. You're the one who is making the choices. That's what gives you hope. Even though we may be suffering in our lives, there's a way out through our own actions. We don't have to sit around waiting for someone to come save us." For Buddha said, "The secret of health for both mind and body is not to mourn for the past, worry about the future, or anticipate troubles, but to live in the present moment wisely and earnestly. Teach this triple truth: a generous heart, kind speech, and a life of service and compassion are the things which renew humanity." When we engage in activities in which we are spiritually motivated to help others, our sense of serving both God and others actually causes us to feel good. Furthermore, engaging in social justice commitments can give us a sense of heightened optimism or hope, a sense of belonging, a community of faith, or a social support structure, a place and circumstances in which to practice letting go, a positive connection with an entity greater than ourselves, a sense of purpose and meaning, a positive identity or self-concept, and an attitude of gratitude. If every one of the 90% of the world's population who reports a belief in God put the basic values and teachings of their faith traditions into practice, we might actually be able to eradicate what the Buddha refers to as suffering, and what psychologists call cognitive dissonance, to find that we had created what Judaism refers to as tikkun olam, the healing of the world, peace on earth. Namaste.
So do you all enjoy this video? It's a small 30-minute video on stress management. As you all know, for those people who have joined late in the class, our today's topic is spirituality and management. So do you all enjoy this video? Kelvin, Pradesh, Sriraj and Divya? Is my voice audible to you all? Okay. Any questions? Anything you want to ask? Anything? Okay, then let me play the second video for you. It's also the very interesting one.
And slowly and gradually become aware of body and surroundings. Take another deep breath in, breathe out. And slowly and gradually at your own speed, you may open your eyes. Was it good? How many of you enjoyed the meditation? Raise your hands. Did you realize it is about 18 minutes? Huh? I think 17 minutes to be more precise. 17 minutes. How many of you didn't feel the time? Good. Now if you have some questions, I will. Huh?
Guruji, his question is, what should be the purpose of life?
What should be the purpose of life? It's like asking how much I should eat. You should listen to your stomach. There is no how much you should eat. It depends on whether I should feel hungry or not. It's not a question. What is the purpose of your life? This you should find out yourself. Anyone who knows will not answer you. If anybody tries to answer you, be sure they don't know it.
I'm taking it
Secret of success is having the confidence anything you take you will succeed. Confidence in the self-confidence. Pardon?
Swamiji, project management consists of 5 skills: initiation, planning, execution, controlling and closing. I would like to ask you, I seek your answer, how a project manager can acquire 2 skills of initiation and planning. That means how we can get a good idea, how we can become a good idea generator to initiate a project, and how we can become a good planner to plan the project.
Silence is the mother of all creativity. Few minutes you have to calm your mind. Either in the early morning or evening, any time. Just be by yourself, calm down a little bit or meditate. Then ideas to come. Number 1. For ideas to come, you need 2 things. One is you have to feed in information first. Feed in information, along with that, allow a processing time for the information to come up with more creative ideas. This allowing time is quietening the mind. Now, implementation of project and managing with so many people, patience is the answer for that. Patience. To deal with people, not to be so concerned or afraid of failures. These are 2 things we must. Yes, as I said, passion and dispassion, they are contradictory. Breathing in and breathing out. They both are essential. So, ambition is okay, but it cannot become over ambition, then it blinds you to the reality. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, ambition and contentment appears to be completely opposite in direction. Right? Ambition can bring frustration. Now, if you see in the world, the countries which have made substantial progress, are still progressing, are those who have certain degree of contentment. If stress and frustration is the cause of development, then Afghanistan should have been the country which is most developed. The last 25 years they are very frustrated. Lebanon is in tension for so many years. But that doesn't seem to be. So, passion with contentment is essential. That is the secret of success. You need to feel that contentment and yet have a vision, ambition to do something.
Swamiji, what sort of books do you read and absorb all this knowledge that we're getting in the yesterday and tomorrow?
Ignorance is bliss.
That's what it said.
Oh. Ignorance is bliss when you don't want to take a responsibility. But when you are a project manager, you can't say ignorance is bliss.
Swamiji,
So,
I have a question regarding project
we have to take responsibility And we have to see that there is an innocent corner deep in our heart. If we are in touch with ourselves, come what may, and not worry about what people think about us, then you are in bliss. Yeah? Yes. You know, haven't you experienced this? You have not done any wrong to somebody or anybody, still you got some enemies? How many of you have this experience? Many times I ask people and they all agree with me on this. See, you have not done anything bad to anybody. But still some people have become your enemies. And then you have not done any great favor to somebody, still they have become great friends of yours. How many of you have this experience? See? When this is the case, friendship and animosity, it just seem to go with some strange law of karma. It's a karmic law. That's why suddenly a good friend becomes your enemy and an enemy becomes a big helper to you sometimes.
Guruji, pranam. Guruji, I have a question. What is the skill of retaining the internal youth within oneself? How to retain the youth within itself? Because we have seen many cases, in many cases we have seen that people are capable enough to retain the youth within themselves, and in many cases we have seen that it's a failure. In a pretty early age, people have lost their youth.
You drive car?
I'm sorry?
Do you drive a car?
No.
You don't drive the car. You have a driver?
I have a driver.
Okay. You know, in your car you have windshield?
Correct.
And then there is a rear mirror also.
Correct.
How big is the rear mirror?
Small.
And windshield?
Big.
That's how your life should be. You should look at the future more and little bit to the past.
Thank you.
I have, Swamiji, I have a question related to the emotional quotient that we can build in the project managerial practices. We work on so many things on intelligence, emotions, and spirituality. So how can we build the spiritual quotient also into the project managerial process? Is the question.
You know, spiritual quotient does not exclude intelligent quotient, emotional quotient, and performance quotient and everything. It is the mother of all other quotients. So spiritual quotient is always there when you create a sense of belongingness amongst the people around you. Do you know corruption begins where? Someone who match your frequency, you will remain in the same level. You can't go higher.
Very good, sir. Thank you. Second,
Just don't worry about you just take the knowledge from wherever it comes. Actually, they were asking about the book. I would say Yoga Vasishta perhaps is one of the wonderful book you can read. If you have not read, Yoga Vasishta is one book you can read that. And meditate, take the knowledge, suddenly that connection will happen to you.
thank you, Guruji.
Namaste,
This
Guruji.
Second, a little small, the second part of the question is, how do I be accepted by being, try to be a grihastha yogi or whatever? I fear of unacceptance. Say if I think, my physical body is nothing, it's my soul, and if I stop decorating myself, I may be unaccepted. This is small, a simple example. But how to sustain being a grihastha yogi while performing all the duties?
Your question is how you should be accepted by people.
I want to be myself while being accepted by people, but this is not the way I am.
Don't worry. Whether people accept you or reject you, don't worry. It will all change. People accept you, they reject you, then they accept you, reject you. So what?
Swamiji.
Immaterial.
Guruji, I have a question.
Yeah.
We believe that ignorance is bliss. The last one day and the following tomorrow, we'll be bombarded with a lot of knowledge. We all want to be in the bliss. So what do you have for us to be in that bliss and still absorb all this knowledge that we're getting in the yesterday and tomorrow?
Ignorance is bliss.
That's what it said.
Ignorance is bliss when you don't want to take a responsibility. But when you are a project manager, you can't say ignorance is bliss.
Swamiji,
So-
I have a question regarding
We have to take responsibility, and we have to see that there is an innocent corner deep in our heart. If we are in touch with ourselves, come what may, and not worry about what people think about us, then you are in bliss. Yeah? Yes. Haven't you experienced this? You have not done any wrong to somebody or anybody, still you got some enemies? How many of you have this experience? Many times I ask people and they all agree with me on this. See, you have not done anything bad to anybody. But still some people have become your enemies. And then you have not done any great favor to somebody, still they have become great friends of yours. How many of you have this experience? See? When this is the case, friendship and animosity, it just seems to go with some strange law of karma. It's a karmic law. That's why suddenly a good friend becomes your enemy and an enemy becomes a big helper to you sometimes.
Guruji, Pranam. Guruji, I have a question. What is the skill of retaining the internal youth within oneself? How to retain the youth within itself? Because we have seen many cases, in many cases we have seen that people are capable enough to retain the youth within themselves, and in many cases we have seen that it's a failure. In a pretty early age, people have lost their youth.
You drive car?
I'm sorry?
Do you drive a car?
No,
You don't drive the car. You have a driver?
I have a driver.
Okay. In your car you have windshield
Correct.
and then there is a rear mirror also.
Correct.
How big is the rear mirror
Small,
and windshield?
big.
That's how your life should be. You should look at the future more and little bit to the past.
Thank you.
I have, Swamiji, I have a question related to the emotional quotient that we can build in the project managerial practices. We work on so many things on intelligence, emotions, and spirituality. So how can we build the spiritual quotient also into the project managerial process? Is the question.
You know, spiritual quotient does not exclude intelligent quotient, emotional quotient, and performance quotient and everything. It is the mother of all other quotients. So spiritual quotient is always there when you create a sense of belongingness amongst the people around you. Do you know corruption begins where sense of belongingness ends? You know, corruption only begins right from that point where sense of belongingness ends. Yeah?
Guruji.
So spirituality is enhancing the sense of belongingness.
Swamiji, I have
Yes?
two questions.
Yeah.
The first thing is, when getting older, how to keep my hair, beard, mustache, keep growing in black? Because it's really stressful when we see getting older and others see us, we feel something stressed. So how to avoid that and keep growing it in black? First question.
You know, I tell you, your hairs don't matter. What really stands up is your smile. It's your smile that brings charm in your face, not your hair, or the color of your hair, I tell you.
Okay. This.
If you have compassion, if you have love, if you have confidence, and a smile that nobody can ever take away from you, I tell you, forget about all celebrities, everybody will run after you.
Okay. The second question is the real question. When I fail doing something, it's very hard to digest that. I say I cannot digest that. I saw that in my career, and after some time when I was successful, again I'm saying I cannot digest that because it's a different type of digestion. So how to digest both in the same way and be successful?
You need digestive enzymes. That is spirituality, that is meditation. Do some pranayama, sudarshan kriya, you will see how you can digest any success anywhere in the world or any failure. Yeah? Failure will be far-fetched, they won't come near you, but you can very easily digest all the success.
Guruji, 120/80 blood pressure reading is a day of the past now. Currently we're at 140/90, 150/100. The bar is just rising. And doctors say it is because of stress due to urbanization. The first speaker who came here incidentally spoke about urbanization only increasing in the next few decades. Is our mind capable of handling so much?
That's why the second speaker now. I'm the second speaker or third now? Organizers have planned perfectly well. How you see what is stress? Have you thought about it? Too much to do, too little time, and too little energy. These three ingredients together produce the most dangerous thing in the world called stress. Stress is created by three ingredients. What are they? Too much to do, too little time, and too little energy, or not enough energy. Then stress comes up, and it's the worst killer today. You know, only 3% of people get heart attack through because of the blockage in the heart. They say nearly 50% of people who have heart attacks these days are due to stress at the workplace. Some recent survey I was told was in BBC about this. Now, to manage stress, we need to look into our own existence. What are you? Who are you? Where are you? Are you the body, the breath, mind, intellect, memory, ego, yourself? Who are you? How you can bring a balance between all your inner components? It's like overhauling a machine. Once in a while it needs little tuning in. So the tuning in is called spirituality. And if you meditate, do some pranayama, you can get rid of all the stress. You know how many flights I took this month, this September? 35 flights in this month, September. In 1 month, going to various places. Do I look exhausted completely? So what helps you is your practice.
Guruji, when we are doing the meditation, we are feeling the vibrations and changes in the body. Like what all changes, based on our experience, is there any more changes we'll be observing in the body, or what it signifies, that vibrations and the changes in the body?
Everything is vibration. The whole world is vibration, right? Are you quantum physicist?
Like vibration means like body will be shaking, or you will get some kind of... so what it signifies basically when we are doing that meditation?
No, when there is some vibrations in the body, it just... Sometimes it can be release of stress, sometimes it can be manifestation of fresh new energy in the body. Body is releasing new energy. That also can happen.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Guruji, I have a question. First of all, thank you.
If it is too much, then take some banana and milk. And eat well and go for a walk, you'll be fine.
First of all, thank you for the excellent meditation we had. It's very appropriate. Today is the World Heart Day, and de-stressing was very useful today. My question to you is, you said about desktop meditation today, which we did in a fairly relaxed state, even sitting in the chair. When we go to meditation classes, they talk a lot of yoga, postures, and so on, which kind of becomes difficult for people with difficulties. Now, how important are those postures and so on, or can we go ahead with the desktop?
No. See, do only as much as you can. You are not required to do anything which you cannot do. The simple thing is do what you can easily do. That's it. By relaxing, going into meditation.
Namaste, Guruji. You were talking about friends becoming an enemy and enemy becoming a friend. So is it like a natural phenomena, or is it because of the karma? So do we need to believe in karma?
Yeah, of course, karma is there. Karma means the past actions or vibrations in you which enhance a similar situation. Yeah.
Thank you, Guruji.
But one thing you can do, we can increase our positive energy. When we increase our positive vibrations, we become more palatable to people around us. Have you experienced this? In your workplace, with some colleagues you are able to work well, with others you want to avoid them. How many of you have this experience? Raise your hands. Let me see. Because of that vibes itself doesn't suit you, no? But if you are so centered, if you improve your own vibration, stretch your hand, you will see that person also has similar feelings for it.
Guruji, I'm dealing with the most complex project called as living life. So I want to know how to live life.
Come to Art of Living, they'll tell you. It's a 6-day, 2 hours each day. You will learn a lot about the components of life: body, breath, mind, intellect, memory, ego, and the self, which is the basis of everything. Okay?
Shastriji, Guruji, when I was a child, and there were times when your questions were not answered. but today my child would not tolerate that. We are living VUCA times, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And most of us are in that stage when we are getting a teenage kids. How do we, whether that parenting was good or this parenting? I am a little confused, and I would like to see your blessings. And I'm sure most of us will be benefited from that. Thank you.
Yes, it is good that children are getting mature very early in age and they are asking questions which usually you would ask in 40 or 50. I appreciate the youngsters do ask very brilliant questions, thought-provoking questions, and it should be encouraged. At the same time, if the question is combined with lack of feeling or commitment or character, that we need to attend. On one hand, we need to build a very strong bond, emotional bond with the kids, at the same time character, and at the same, along with that, when they ask questions, we should ask them to explore more in this direction.
I think this video is very interesting, as we are seeing that there are different people from different management backgrounds, IT technocrats. They are asking questions to Sri Ravi Shankar, and he is answering to the questions related to management and spirituality. So I think, but we are running out of time now. It's already 1 hour 4 minutes in the class. So I think we can stop here, and then in the next class when we'll meet, we'll continue from this side. I hope everybody is enjoying this video. Kelvin, Pradesh, Divya, Asya, Kazi. Do you all enjoy this video? What about Divya? Mr. Kazi, you have joined late in the class today. So just for your information, we are continuing from the last class. As in the last class we are discussing on spirituality and management. From there onwards, we are continuing in this class. So I think that brings us to the end of our today's class. Hope everybody of you have enjoyed today's class. We'll stop here and we'll be meeting in the next class on Monday. So up to then, thank you all for your time. Have a good sleep, have a good health. Just do give your feedbacks after the class. Thank you all. Take care. Bye-bye.